G'day everyone, this is Yisrael Segall from Building Aloud. This is the next entry in sort of like my video journal about building my foray into entrepreneurship or to building a platform, at this time Media Sync. Um, I think it's important at least, to understand what motivates me because it kind of will shape everything that happens next. And we've already dealt with in the last entry a little bit more about the first obstacle that I had that I went into trying to understand. I got the technical skills, but I really wanted to delve into like the purchase behaviors and things like that. And and I found my first obstacle, right, major obstacle. But I think it's important to understand, okay, why did that disturb me, but also kind of the type of person, how I look at things, and because it really will show you the journey, or kind of it will help to understand the journey that we're about to that I embarked upon afterwards. And now, I think I don't know. All founders could be the same. All founders could be different. I don't know. I wish I could be one of these like LinkedIn people that tell you, I interview 4,000 founders, solo founders, every single Tuesday, and they all tell me the same thing. Or like I'm not. I can't. I don't have that. Right. My list of founders that I know are very small. Right. A lot of them are few, and a lot of them have actually influenced me a lot. Some of them have mentored me, and I really appreciate it. But this is me. Right. So I'm an engineer at heart. Right. An engineer turned psychologist turned marketer, kind of turned like product. And what do I mean by that? Right? I'm not talking about software engineering and the technical skills. I like to understand how things work. So you have people that will get something and they'll say, okay, how do I use it? Right? Right? The way that I like to think of it is like, okay, I understand how to use it, but how does it work? What are the different parts and what can I make it do? Right? So I'll take something apart. Even as a kid, I was like this. I would take something apart. I would figure it out. Sometimes I would break it in the process, but I would take it apart and I would learn. I would learn the different parts of it, and then I'd put it back together, and I'd understand how it worked. And that sort of went into psychology. Psychology is understanding how people work, right? And then you have marketing, which to me is understanding how consumers function, how a market functions, how a company functions. You have to take the entire of a company, you have to understand the marketplace, and you have to understand the potential buyer, understand the entire how it decides what are the different noises, what do they expect, what do they expect in the market, how they buy, how they research, and and to understand how they research, and you have to understand the composition of the marketplace, the different competitors, how you compete over them. Then you have to understand your own offering, the politics in your own organization, the resources that you have, the limitations that you have, the brand that you have, and kind of how to put all those pieces together in order to make the company grow, in order to reach the consumer and get them to want your product. It's so at its face value, it was fascinating. It's fascinating. It's the understanding of an entire ecosystem, and which is why I was very much more interested. I grew up in the concept of integrated marketing, how things come together into one piece, but also into strategy, and not the kind of strategy that you put out in like 30 minutes and you just have a piece of Word document. It has a bunch of KPIs, a bunch of channels, and you have a description of your audience, and that's kind of it, right? And it's not worth the day you spent on it, the half an hour you spent on it. For me, a strategy was always coming from understanding how customers buy from both the qualitative side. I've run like thousands of market research interviews from the data itself, understanding what types of customers, and then understanding the company and the product and what it actually has to offer, and then putting all those things together, creating one or two hypotheses of the best ways to target a customer, showing clearly what that hypothesis is. Customers do this, therefore we're trying this approach, break it down into the different stages, and and then to see how it comes together. You can't just have a strategy, even a great one, and then not see how it comes together. You also have to be able to execute on that and to see it, because essentially it's a scientific experiment. You have a hypothesis, you want to see if it's true or false, and then you learn information about it so you can adapt to the next thing. And that's kind of, and each failure is essentially learning something about the model. So, and that's kind of how I looked at it. Is trying to understand it. So that began like my fascination. I think that's part of the fascination of why, everything that I've built, or everything that I've tried to build from the first thing, has always been heavily focused around understanding how customers buy. Not attribution, again, not for now, but attribution by itself is sorcery and a nice little highly expensive, ridiculously expensive security blanket, nothing more than that. But sort of the understanding of how they buy now, and seeing it in play. So from the quantitative side, from the data side, it's all about what you have access to, data that you have access to. I spent a lot of times from uni always trying to improve my abilities to interview, and I got a lot of practice over the years. I think later on when I joined Penguin Strategies, I actually got a lot more tips and tools of how to do it in different ways, and I really learned a lot from what they showed me. But I also in the data side, so I got very into how the data is tracked to ensure that I understand what it means about the actual journey. So I got into analytics tools, to BIs, to like heat mapping and screen recording and things like that, to basically to see what people do and what things matter. And sometimes it's surprising. For example, I found in one journey that most of the people that convert go through the About Us, right? It's a strange thing, but I saw that most people that filled in a demo request on a particular company went through the About Us page, but the About Us page had a phenomenal exit rate, meaning that people were going there and most of the people there were leaving, not coming back. So I made some improvements on that page, and I found that I saw what people were looking at. I changed things a little bit, and I made the journey a little bit more fluid and more continuous, and demo requests and pipe increased. So it's sort of like this. I mean, this is at the end stage of their purchasing, not the, or this is the activity that they do. So I got very involved with that, and I'm trying to understand that. So that's a bit about kind of. So then we get to okay, what is that? What is that? What came next? So that's a nice little entry about me, talking about me to me. But what has that got to do with my actual journey? Well, I got tired of what could and couldn't be done. Remember that I just faced an obstacle that because of an outside dependency, I couldn't do something. And I raged against that. I wanted to learn as much to figure out. And I think, like I said, it's not so much about how to use something as what I can make something do. And it was about the time, I think, when I started learning more about Google Tag Manager, and especially when Google Tag Manager server side came out. And I saw that you could do a lot more. But more importantly, what I learned with Google Tag Manager server side was I started learning the beginnings of JavaScript. And why is that important? Because this is my first foray where I forced myself to learn some level of coding in order to do something without having to rely on a developer. That sort of beginning. Once I learned that sort of started the journey of I don't need a developer for a lot of. I can learn something, and it's ridiculous, and it takes so much investment. There wasn't ChatGPT, there wasn't vibe coding on it. I had to read through a lot of very, very technical documentation. I had to go through and break my head on something. And some of those things were very, very simple, but some of it needed me to understand. I think the first thing that I did was something to do with the HubSpot API. And I had to learn the HubSpot API as well, which is also would come very handy much later on when building MediaSync. And it was the first time where I was exposed to being able to kind of build something or extend something outside of what it's supposed to do or without the need of a developer. I would call that part the beginning of the real journey of where I could see myself actually building something.